Um, gonna highlight a new app we've been developing. Um, if you're a user of the platform, we've got quite a bit of different tools, but the main one I think most people use is what's called Benchmarking Plus. This is you kind of deep dive into our CapEx data, find individual wells, do some high level charting, and then just go investigate your target areas, things like that. We spent a lot of time over the break kind of improving that functionality, but what I really wanted was a more modern looking front end. So for the last month or so, we've been basically spending most of our time trying to do that so that we're in a good spot to use that as kind of the jumping point. We'll probably integrate things like the Type Curve app and things like that into this specific app platform. But I'm just going to highlight high level what you're seeing there. If you're familiar with these drop downs on the app side, there's this benchmarks, which is for basic subs. So if you're on a Substack subscription, this is kind of that carrot. Just go look. You can do some high level charting. You can't get any real individual well info, but it could probably serve as just like an intro or give you some high level comfort with the data. And then we've got a bunch of other apps that we generally use. Like I said, Benchmarking Plus is kind of the one we've used historically. I've added now this Benchmarking Plus new, which I'm calling it beta for now. I've tested it quite a bit. Maybe there's a few bugs still left, but it seems to be replacing most of that functionality and giving you a little bit better of an experience. So that's what we're going to walk through today. I'll probably try to push some of these other apps into there as well. But for now, this is kind of that platform. And let's just step into it. What you'll see is, the map is quite a bit nicer looking. You won't see anything right when you open. You need to actually filter to something first. And we do that largely from an initial load perspective just to make it a little bit easier to load in all the data. But also, you don't want to load 100,000 wells to the map because that's just messy and it will slow you down. Just any platform would be like that. So, for this example, real quick, we're just going to go through like our typical filters. You'll see this usually on most of our apps, or at least the type curve of the benchmarking apps. Just the main filters we use, which is where we go to grab the well data, just so we can give context to the data and do some plotting on like things like pounds per foot and cost versus TVD, things like that. Um, but yeah, so we're going to focus just real quick on Utah. You can see kind of well counts as you go through here. Utah has got a good coverage, and I like that it has a majority of wells actually have an actual and an AFE cost associated with it, so you can get some good high level comparisons between, uh, overspend versus underspend. I did look at it for the most part. People spend what they said they're going to spend, so there's not a big gotcha moment here that I can find really, but this kind of show you like real quick. The map loads really fast compared to the other one. You can go through kind of look through the wells. If you wanted to go look at the PLS grid on top or below this, you can kind of go look at that. This is the section I'm looking at. These are the wells. Um, One functionality we also have that we kind of developed over the break was the ability to import a shapefile. So if I want to do that, I've got SM Uinta one that I built over the one of my research articles. So I'll just drag that over here eventually if I can get it selected here. So I'll drag that into the spot. I'll load it up. You can kind of see it'll give you a count of the gross acreage there. If you've ever done analysis with shapefiles, what you'll realize is 99.5% of the time, the acreage that you get from the shapefile they put on their IR deck is way over, overestimating their entire acreage position. So you need to do some like net to gross kind of work if you're looking through it. But for the most part, it'll at least give you that acreage count, and it's just going to merge the features into one feature. You import it in. You can look at it, change the opacity of the thing, and then go here and it'll stay on the screen while you're working through it. But this will kind of give you a highlight of the wells that actually fall into the shapefile, and you'll see the wells on top of the shapefile as well. So this is kind of that SM view. You've got 133 wells that kind of sit within their acreage profile, or at least intersect any of their acreage position. So we're going to focus on that set of wells at the very least. For the most part, SM obviously you'll see is the operator coming down through here. There's a few 4-point wells that are intersecting that. We've got we've got this cost breakdown tool, which is basically it'll aggregate all the cost breakdowns we have for all these wells and give you that high level view of like these categories, like how much the average casing cost is, how much the average stimulation cost is. These data points are much more granular actually in the data. So these are some summed up high level schema categories we have. But if you wanted to get cost of production casing, surface casing, things like that, that's in the data. If you're looking at the well view, and I'll show you in a second, you'll see those split outs, things like that. And if you're a member of like the corporate plan or whatever, you can just mass download all of it and go kind of do whatever analysis you want. But yeah, you can go pull it up real quick, kind of see that breakdown of costs that you want to look at. You've got the individual wells here. Before the old app, you would have to go to a whole new landing page. I've incorporated it all into just a single page app. So you'll be able to just do it all here, filter wherever you want, change what you want, and go back and do whatever you want. 246 wells were in our main filter set. 133 are just within that shapefile. If you're on corporate plan, which is access to the API, full downloads, you can just export basically this table down here straight to whatever Excel that you want. And that's just this right here. If you're on just on the regular premium or basic plan, there's no mass exports. That's why you get on the corporate plan. Chart builder, if you're familiar with this, is kind of like the ability to build some custom charts based on the data. If you want to do real quick, like operator, you got other filters like date filters, and you wanted to do like 2-mile laterals, you can figure out like your filters to do there to kind of figure that out. And then you could build some plots where maybe I do it by first production year and I group by operator, and then I wanted to do well count on as a scatter. On the line, you could create your own labels, plot 1, x1, y1, y2. It's just random stuff. You can put whatever you want there, and it'll generate a chart, and you can kind of see over time those costs for those categories by operator. And you can actually, I think this is sorted by value descending on the chart. So you can kind of change the way the chart is generated. So now it's, 2022, 23, 24, 25 on the costs. Just split the way you do. If you were doing a categorical axis and you wanted alphabetical order for some reason, that's why that sort by X axis is there. But you can get some high level costs from that. And you could even do stuff like if you're not on basic, you can basically do that cost, but you won't get any of this individual data. On premium and API subscriptions, you'll be able to like do, I wanted to see total component cost. It'll unlock this little guy here, and you could do AFE only, and I just want casing cost, for example. You can generate a chart, and this will be the average casing cost per year by operator for those AFEs. And that's what you get from the chart builder. Yeah, so we're seeing that here. What we can do now is one thing you didn't have in the old app. So say I want to go look at this first well here, spud in 2023. You click on it, you'll actually get a kind of a summary of the well information I have here. Here's the well header info that we pull, the cost data, and you can view the source for the data. So click here, it'll open up the link to, this is the actual cost on this one, and it's showing kind of the source data for that. Click to the wrong thing here. Let me see the nuts and bolts of what we do. Yeah, going back to this page, so you get the source. This one only has an actual cost on it, actually. So if it had an AFE, you'd be able to see the AFE cost, for example. Production, you can actually do the decline segments here if you wanted to. I typically won't do it on this page. I'll go to the few full well details page and do the forecast. You'll get the survey. If you have basically a TBD and MD list, you'll get what's called section view, where you just kind of see the plot of the well going out with the toe. And this is kind of, they moved over 700 feet, and then they went down over 10,145 feet. This is the plan view on that well. If I have casing for the well, it'll show up kind of over here, and you'll also see it. Oh, you actually see it here. So you'll have the casing strings going through here. It'll try to create a wellbore diagram plot, trying to improve that a bit, but it does exist. And then the formations that you see going through the well, I always find this relatively helpful for trying to define what reservoir is, things like that. And if you actually go to the full well details, you'll get a more expanded view of all this. And like I said, view the source, use some of our well documents that we have. Like if you're in Texas, you'll see G2W or G1W2 filings, surveys, et cetera, et cetera. It just depends on the state on what level of data you get, but you'll see that kind of stuff here. Regular header info that you're probably used to. You can be able to see the map once it gets around to it, because it takes a while. It actually will plot some of these offset wells too that you can look into. Cost breakdown. If I have the full cost breakdown, you'll see that here. I don't have it on this well, and there'll be a pie chart that you can look into. Production, like I said, well, you have a multi-segment decline here. So we stayed, if I did 50 barrels a month or something, whatever, it'll real-time update as you're working on this. As you can, so you can do a quick forecast. If you want to do like high level, this is the F&D of this well. You can do that here. We've got a type curve app and things like that where you can do some actual valuation type data. And there's another enhancement that's coming pretty soon that I think everybody will appreciate. We'll get there when we get there, but that's going to be more expanded into this kind of thing. You've got the survey for the well, like you saw that one already, casing formations that you get, and you can actually export all of this text to Excel, CSV, or like a 98C file. And yeah, that's the main functionality here. If we can go back to the benchmarking, this is still that same page. Go back to the Utah wells, and you can go filter. But that's kind of a breakdown of some of the enhancements we've made. You can also filter the wells that have revenue data. We don't have that in Utah yet. I'm looking around trying to find that. But if it has full cost breakdown, you can do those filters and the regular filters you're probably used to if you're using the app. But yep, that's for the main part. Some of the enhancements we've been working on the last few weeks, and I think it's going to give you a better experience as you're working through the app. But yeah, that's about it. I'm going to keep the other apps kind of on there for a while, but we'll probably eventually sunset it once these are kind of just more the standard app that people are working through. So yeah, thanks for taking time to listen. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you later.